Okay, hello and welcome everyone. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and thanks for joining for today's event on optimizing Dynamics AX with Lifecycle Services. I'd like to provide you with just a little background on the sponsor of this AX educational event and the series itself. I.B.I.S, a Sonata software company, is a Microsoft Gold partner focused on Dynamics AX and CRM. I.B.I.S has been in this business for 27 years. Their strength is in the supply chain space, and they are really focused on client care and services. Today we're joined by Murray Fife. Murray is someone many of you probably know. He is a Dynamics AX veteran, and he is a technology sales professional at Microsoft. So to get this event started, please know that we would like to take your questions, so feel free to use the Q&A block. You should see to the right of the main presentation window to enter those at any time. We will be taking those, I think, both during and after the event. So without any further delay, please let me hand things off to Murray Fife. Murray.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yep.
Yep, great. So thanks everybody for taking time to sit in on this presentation and sort of to learn a little bit about Lifecycle Services. And some of you may know about Lifecycle Services, some of you may not, and it's been, this is a really, really important tool that's out there that's being delivered by Microsoft to help everyone with their Dynamics AX implementations, regardless of whether they're up and running or whether they're just going live or whether they're sort of in the implementation phase. There's a lot of different tools that are available there, and we're going to talk about some of those today, and I'll show you how you can use these and how they can really make your life a lot better with in general. Now, to start off, let me move through. The Lifecycle Services is a separate product that's delivered by Microsoft, but really it's a core product whenever it comes to anything to do with Dynamics AX. This is going to become even more important with the new Dynamics AX release coming out, because it is going to be a required part of the product, and it's going to be really the tool that monitors the life cycle or the heartbeat of your system, and also gives you a whole slew of rich tools that are available to you. And this is really shown by how much investment Microsoft is actually giving to this product. And again, it's an important tool that everybody should know how to use and when to use it, and also what tools are available to take advantage of. Now, the main goal of Lifecycle Services is really to help you with the implementations and help you with keeping your system up and running. And for anyone who's going out and sort of tracking a Dynamics AX project, whether it's live or whether it's being implemented, then Lifecycle Services is a key tool that you should take advantage of. Now, the two other points that I'll make here with Lifecycle Services for what it applies to. So in the past, it's applied to just AX 2012. And Lifecycle Services has been around for a couple of years already, but has changed quite a lot over this time. But it's also now, people have different projects that are running. For example, now Lifecycle Services and the things that I'm going to show you also are supported for CRM. So a CRM project, just like an AX project, needs to be managed, and Lifecycle Services is the way to do it. And also for AX7, the new Dynamics AX, then you'll see that there's a lot of tools that are coming out just for that project, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. Now, what Lifecycle Services has been designed to do is really to automate the best practices, to give you standard methodologies that you can go out and use to help you along the way, and also become a repository for a lot of your documentation that you'll see in a second. And also it's a link through the cloud back to Microsoft, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, Lifecycle Services, as I mentioned before, it's been around for a while. Not a long time. It's been around, as far as I can remember, a couple of years, but it's really just started to take off in the past year. And a lot of partners are using it. There's around about over 20,000 registered users on Lifecycle Services. There's also what you'll see are there are a number of projects that have been used, and this is also available in over 40 different languages. But this is also going through a very rapid release cycle. So what I'll show you today is not necessarily all that you'll see if you log into it next month or the month after or even in a year, because I personally have seen a lot of changes being made to it and a lot of features that get added in through the agile cycle that they're using, and on a monthly basis a lot more things are popping out. Now, the Lifecycle Services, the whole idea of this and the whole promise that it's designed to provide is to give you a framework for implementations. It's designed to give you tools that you will use at every different stage in your Dynamics AX or CRM or AX7 project. For example, you may be in the implementation phase, so you're sort of trying to define things. You may be rolling out new customizations, so this is a tool that the developer can use to help them with the customizations. Also, I'll show you in a second that there's different tools out there for monitoring the system, for performing upgrades and managing different areas of the system. So there are tools here for IT administration. Now, if we look at what people are trying to manage within the organization, then project managers are really just trying to create some sort of repeatable process. So this could be your project manager if you're a customer, or this could be a project manager from a partner that's helping you along the way. But being able to create repeatable experiences, repeatable implementations, and repeatable successes is really important. Now, if you're a business analyst, and there's a lot of things that you'll want to manage. For example, you want to be able to track your implementation. I'll show you in a second some of the tools with the business process designer that's built into Lifecycle Services that allow you to use best practices as you're sort of analyzing the system and as you're sort of planning what should you do and how should you roll out the system. Now, also we've got the developers. The developers want they want tools that allow them to have consistent or well-coded changes or customizations to the system. Also, they may want to be able to track or download patches or other changes. So, and then finally, we've got the IT administrator. Then, as an administrator, what you want to do is you want to sort of be more proactive with the system. You want to have tools that allow you to monitor and see where, for example, there may be bottlenecks. All of these different roles are incorporated within Lifecycle Services because we're going to show you how, for example, we've got methodologies built into Lifecycle Services, repeatable processes for how we want to track processes. We've also got gaps within the system. We've got a way to track business processes so that you don't have to go out and create Visio diagrams and manage a lot of documentation. There's also tools that I'm going to show you from a business analyst and also from a new implementation standpoint where, for example, you can go out and estimate licenses. You can go out and profile the system so that you can work out whether you've got enough horsepower in the system. From a Lifecycle Services, when you get to the development stage, the business process modeler is really important because you can go out and make changes to the models, and then that's going to create gap lists. We can, through Lifecycle Services, process customizations and run them through best coding practices, and it's going to tell you if there's any problems within the system. Also, whenever you perform an upgrade from a development standpoint, the system is Lifecycle Services is going to show you where the highest impact of those changes are, and also go back and look at all of the business processes that you've worked out to say this change is important, this change isn't. And then the final tools that are available from an operations standpoint are the diagnostics, the ability to go out and perform issue searches, to go out and perform cloud-powered support, which we'll talk about, which will actually fire up virtual machines, and you can go out and recreate a problem and then send that problem back to Microsoft and have a direct connection with support. So before we sort of jump into showing you the Lifecycle Services, the important thing here is that Lifecycle Services is the set of tools. There's a lot of them, and you'll see them in a second, but they're there for you to take advantage of with your implementation, regardless of the stage that you are within the lifecycle. There's something there that you can take advantage of. And something I don't think we really talked about too much is this is free. Everybody has access to it, so everybody, if you're licensed with AX, as a customer and also as a partner, then you can go in and you can take advantage of all these tools and use it right away. Now, we'll start off by talking about some of the tools that are out there, and we'll look at this by business role. Now, the project manager is going to be part of all of these because they're the ones that are really trying to control the repeatable process. But when you're going out and you're at the definition stage, so you're at the beginning of an implementation, then there's a lot of things that you'll want to manage. And we've talked about some of these already, but some of these are, for example, the business process modeler, licensing sizing, a licensing estimator, the usage profiler, and also the management of the projects. And what we'll do is we're just going to look at some of those and look at how they work so that we can get a better idea of how Lifecycle Services can help you. Now, let me just pop over here. For anyone who hasn't used Lifecycle Services up until now, then all you need to do is just go to lcs.dynamics.com, and this is going to take you straight into Lifecycle Services. And I've actually logged in, so it's taking me straight to my project's dashboard. Now, before we go into some of the tools, then you can have as many projects as you want here, and some of these projects aren't necessarily projects that may be for the main implementation. You can go out and you can create different projects for learning, for introduction to the new products like AX7, and also you can create temporary projects and a number of other sort of things. Now, if, for example, I wanted to create a project, and if you haven't used Lifecycle Services up until this point, then what we can do is we can tell the system, I want to create a new project, and then we've got a couple of different options for the project. This is actually new as of probably this week. And what we can do is we can say, if we're a partner, then maybe we want to set up a pre-sales project. What this will do is this allows us to give a prospective customer access to some of the Lifecycle Services tools so that they can go out and they can sort of start setting up some of the information themselves. If you're thinking of moving to AX7, then there's actually a new project here for migration that's going to allow you to do a number of different things. Or if we're just implementing, then we can create an implementation project. Now, so based on what we choose here, then this is going to take us into a different area. And say, for example, I wanted to create a new project, then I can tell the system, what do I want to implement? So we'll say that I want to implement 2012. And then I can say which version. So I'll choose the R3 version here. Then also, what is my industry? Now, this is important because there's a couple of things going to change based on what we want to do. And different business process models are going to pop up. And then finally, we can go out and say, how do we want to implement this? And we can use the standard sure-step implementation methodology, or if you're working with a partner, or if you are a partner, then you can actually go out and create your own project methodologies, and you'll see these running in just a second. Now, so I'm going to go out and create my project. And this is the first time, if this is the first time that you've seen Lifecycle Services, then I'll show you how this works, and then we'll talk about the things that you'll need to do when you go out and start your implementation. But what we've got is a dashboard here, and we have a couple of different areas. This first area is showing us the standard methodology, or really a cheat sheet for how do we want to roll out our project. And you can see that as I move through these, then we're moving through different areas, and we've got different solution designs, but there's also documents here that are associated with each of these steps, which are standard documents. So if, for example, you wanted a standard project that says, how do I implement Dynamics AX? Then there's actually a project built into here as a resource that we can take advantage of. So let me close this down. So these projects are available for you. Also, what we have is we've got some environments that we'll look at in a second, but then we have all of these tools. This is really where Lifecycle Services is the most important, because what it's giving you are all of these different sort of tools that we talked about earlier on, like the configuration manager and the localization and the support and the licensing estimator. And then also we've got some libraries and some configurations that we can work through. So now if I look back and see what different tools are available here from the definition stage, then there's a couple of different things. What we're going to look at now is we're going to look at the business process modeler. We're going to look at the licensing sizing and the infrastructure and the usage profile. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to say, what are we going to use within the system, how are we going to use it, and then what impact does that have on the system as well. Now, I'm going to return back here to my other project. And this is a project that I've already set up, and I've got a little bit of information here. But let's look at some of the things. So if the things I'll talk about here is I've got the business process modeler here. We're going to talk about the infrastructure estimator, the licensing estimator, and this usage profiler. The first area are these business process models. Now, if you're new to Dynamics AX, then one of the things that are going to pop up here or that you're going to really struggle with initially because you don't know the system, is how should the system be used? There's a lot of help files and you can get a lot of information on TechNet, but how you run this Dynamics AX, or how you should run it from a business standpoint, is always something that you need to sort of work on and learn over time. But what Lifecycle Services provides are these libraries. Now, libraries are all of the different business processes that have been defined for different industries. So in this case, we've got discrete manufacturing, retail, professional services, and also the APQC standard procedures that could apply to all industries. If I look at some of these, as I move into them, then out of the box, there are over 1,200 different functions that have been mapped out. And if I look at some of these, for example, if I go down to 4, 2, 3, 4, how do I go out and create a purchase order? Then I can go directly from Lifecycle Services, into the flow and see the standard swim lanes and the standard business process for how we should enter in a purchase order, and also how we should post it and invoice it. And you can see all the different steps that we've got here. Also, we've got all of the task recording notes popping up here that says this is how we should enter it in. And then also down here, I've even got a video that shows me how I should go out and create a product receipt and post it and then go through directly to the invoices. So just inside of this library, we have all of these ways or items that have been documented that say how do we perform these tasks. Now, any of these tasks we can promote from the global libraries or our corporate libraries, which may be versions that we've changed and then we've promoted back to our personal library. And I can copy them up and make your own personal library. I can't change these global libraries, but once I create one up here, I can. And as you go through and start your implementation, then what you're going to do is you're going to say, how should I go out and create a purchase order? And then how do I actually go out and create a purchase order? So maybe we want to have a script, or maybe we want to have an email, or maybe we want to have a workflow that's incorporated into this. Then I can go out and drop in a new process here, then link this up, and now I've got inside of my Visio-like flow a list of all of the different things that need to be done, including any gaps that I've got. And also what happens is when I go out and open this up, then this is going to go out, I didn't save that gap. So let me go back to here, pop this in. And I save this, then it's actually going to now change it, and now I have a list of gaps which get generated throughout the system. So what we're doing is this is going to move through into the develop stage where I can go out and I can say maybe this is a gap, maybe this isn't. But by using the standard business procedures, then I can go out and I can say these are the deviations from the standard flow here within the system. Now, also what you can do from here is I can export this out to a Visio diagram. Now, if I do that, then I can save this away as documentation if I want, or I can use it as some sort of other documentation within the system. So it sort of saves me a lot of time, but really I don't want to add an extra step here where I keep on printing these out because I've already got the documentation. Now, also these business processes are useful because if you go out and use a task recorder within AX 2012 or you create task guides within AX7, then they will actually get uploaded here to Lifecycle Services and it will create the diagrams for you. Now, one other item that we can do here, whoops, go back, is that if we select any of these, then I can click on the documentation link and it will create all of the standard business procedure documentation for me inside of Word that contains all of the different business processes that we've defined. So this does a lot of different things. Now, this is part of the definition phase, but there's a couple of other different areas here. So once we have our business processes, then what we can do is we can, let me find it. We can take advantage of some of the other tools. And one of them, what you're going to do next is you're going to go out and allow the system to create a usage profile for you. Now, all this is saying is how are we going to use the system? So for example, how are we going to host this? Is this going to be done internally or is it going to be done through Azure? How many servers are we going to use? What languages do we need to take into account? When it comes to customer management, then how many customer masters are there going to be? Are they going to be, how many orders are going to be, or new customer profiles are going to be entered in each month? So what we do is we go out and sort of create a profile that says this is how we're going to use the system. Also, we can go out and we can say these are all the standard reports that we're going to use, these are our sites, and what ISVs are we going to use, and what customizations we're going to use. Now, you can do this manually, but there's a little trick here. We just exit out of here quickly, that it will go out and create a spreadsheet for you. And all of the different questions that you need to answer for your usage profile are built into this spreadsheet. So you can go out and you can look at this offline. You don't actually have to be online to do this. And you can poll all the different people within the organization to say, how are you going to update these? What's the standard flows? And then we can go out and sort of make some changes there as well. Let me just go back to here. Now, once we've got this usage profile, then, let me go back to there, then it will go out and start allowing you to analyze a little bit more of the information. So I can go out and I can start looking based on the number of users that I'm using, what is the load that I've got. And I actually overloaded my system a little bit here, and so much with my transactions that even Azure won't be able to handle it. But it's giving me a report showing me all of the different sort of loads that we've got. So even now, without knowing a lot about the infrastructure or really only knowing about my company and my profile, I'm starting to work out where maybe I'm going to have some bottlenecks in the system. Now, the next item that we can use is really important for implementations, and that's the licensing estimator. One of the things that, if, for example, you're moving up to AX7, or you're a new customer and you're trying to say, how many users should I have? Then licensing and estimating the number of functional and enterprise and task users is hard. And that's because you've got to work out where people belong within the organization. And what the licensing estimator allows us to do is it allows us to go out and say, these are all of the different roles and how many people I've got. And I could tell the system that maybe I've got 100 customers that are logging in here. Then I can say, how many users do I have within the system? Now, I could go out and I can change my vendor licenses. Also, it shows them what the roles those people within the organization have. And we can really create a profile of what the organization is. Now, also what it allows me to do is run a report that will tell me how many users do I need. So how many enterprise users, how many functional, how many task or self-service users I need. Also breaking them down. So this gives us a way to look at the system and say, and from an implementation standpoint, say what do I need to use within the system. Now the final item that we have here is, so we know from our business processes what functions we're going to be using. And we know how many users we're going to have, and we also know the load on the system. So now what Lifecycle Services allows us to do is run this infrastructure estimator. And what we can do now is we can go out and we can say, if I wanted a production system, then how many servers do I need? And I've actually got too many users because of my customers, but it will go out and tell me how many AOS servers I need, how many SQL servers I need for training, how many different systems do I need, and also what type of servers these are if they're Azure. So I can, from a deployment standpoint, I could also go out and just price this out and work out how much this is going to cost me monthly if I choose Azure, or I could pass this information on to my hosting provider to say how much would this cost if I need these types of servers with this amount of memory, sort of getting rid of a lot of the guesswork. So what I've done here is I've talked about the initial phase and some of the tools that are available, which is really the definition portion. Now, after you've gone through and sort of done part of the rollout, then you move into another stage within the life cycle of the system. This is really developing code. It's going out and looking at customizations and doing a couple of different things. So Lifecycle Services, as I mentioned before, has tools that the developer can use. And part of it we've already seen. So the business process modeler passes off from the business analyst over to the developer, and it says, this is how we should run the system. These are the programs that are affected. These are the gaps that we need to manage. Also, Lifecycle Services has cloud-hosted environments, which I think is really important and also really useful, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to go out and deploy out environments through Azure without really doing a lot. And then also we can look at I can go out and look at the customizations and the analysis as well. And Dennis asked a question, can we get slices and videos of the webcast? And I think all of this is going to be recorded, so you should be able to have access to all of this. Now, if we look at some of these things though, let's return back to my project and look at some of the things that are there. Now, from the first item that we talked about, and you've already seen it, is the business process modeler. But what this does is, this is giving, as we go out and sort of model our business processes, then also this is going to create gaps. And we're going to be able to go out and use this within the development phase to go out and make changes. But something that I think is really, really important and super useful from development and also from a production standpoint is this cloud-hosted environments tool that's available within Lifecycle Services. Now, I don't know how many of you all have thought, well, what's in the new version of the system? What's in AX7 or even what's in CU9? Then if you're ingenious, then you can actually go to customer source or partner source and you can download the image and you can start using it. But you have to, there's a little bit of legwork that you need in order to manage this. Or say, for example, you want to roll out as part of the implementation. Maybe you want to have training environments and you don't have the infrastructure, or you don't want to go out and fire up just a separate training server, but you only need to use the system maybe for a couple of days. Then maybe what you'd want to do is just go out and have an option where I could create a demo system that's more of a throwaway system. So this is what this allows you to do. The cloud-hosted environments allows you to tell the system, I want to create a system on Azure that maybe I can turn on or turn off if I want to. And I could create a demo system. And I could say that maybe I want to have a R3 demo system, or maybe I want to have a CU9 image. Or if this is an AX7 project, then actually it would allow us to say, I want to create a AX7 CTP8 image or an RTM image when that gets released out in a couple of weeks. But all I need to do here is I need to say, what is this name? And this is going to be train. And it's going to create a demo system. I can go out and I can say, yes, I'm going to pay for the pricing. I could change the type of server that I want. Also what I can do, which is really interesting, is I can go into the advanced settings here and I could change the memory. I could go out and I could change the demo environment that's in there. I can do a whole slew of different sort of tweaking. After I go through this, I'm not going to do this because I don't have a lot of Azure credits on my system. But in around about 2 hours, then this will go out. It will create a new virtual machine within Azure for you, and also it will go out and give you access to this and give you the IP address, and you can remote desktop to it. And this will be a system just like everyone else uses. And this is actually what I've got over here. And so I've got my demo system that was created for me. And I can go directly to my Azure settings, or I can go over to my Azure portal and log in, and I can see the virtual machine running here, and I could go and tweak it. I could turn it on or turn it off. So the link from Lifecycle Services over here to Azure makes rolling out demo systems or test systems or even production systems really simple, because all you're doing is just going out and sort of creating these. Now, this, after you've gone out and created these, then you can actually start them up, you can stop them, and you can manage them all here through Lifecycle Services, and it gives you a whole slew of different tools. Now, if you're using this as maybe a development box, then there's some tools also that I talked about earlier on that you can take advantage of. Now, some of these are the customization and upgrade analysis tools. Now, what this allows you to do, and I'm not really a coder, I just sort of pretend to be one, but you can go out and add a customization here to Lifecycle Services, and it's going to analyze the code, it's going to work out whether you're following best practices, and also make changes, suggest changes to the code that will maybe make it better. There's also a lot of things you can do here where you can change the best practices and you can tweak them. Maybe one best practice is something that you don't want to follow, not because you want to sort of circumvent coding, but maybe because you have some sort of limitation within the system that you don't want to follow these sort of guidelines, and that's fine. But you can manage all of these here. Also, the other tool that's available to you is the upgrade analysis. So, say for example you're a developer and you're moving from CU8 to CU9 of 2012, then the upgrade analysis will go out and it will allow you to connect back to your AX system. It will look at what changes you've made and look at what customizations are out there and allow you to run an upgrade analysis to see where the problems are, or where, for example, you may need to do more testing. And this is a little bit clever because also it's going to, both of these, look at the business process models that you've defined here over here in the tools, and will tell you where, for example, you need to pay special attention because you're using this area of the system. If you don't have any business process models defined for human resources, then when you do an upgrade from CU8 to CU9, then there's no point in testing these areas because you haven't shown that you're really using any of this area of the system. So these are all a couple of different tools that are available to you. Now, the final stage that we'll look at, before I sort of show you just some other things before we finish, is the operations stage. And this is, even if you're a mature company and you've been up and running for a long time, then there's a lot of tools in here that you can take advantage of that will give you different insights into the system. And there's a couple of different things here. So the system diagnostics is an important thing. What Lifecycle Services will do is it's going to allow you to connect to an on-premise or a hosted solution and look at the database and work out where, for example, there may be problems. You can perform issue searches, which I think is really important, where you can go and have a direct connection back to the Microsoft Help Desk and see all of the issues that have been raised on a certain item. Also, the cloud support I'll talk about in a second, but this is a major change to how support gets delivered from Microsoft because it actually uses the cloud-hosted systems, and we'll talk about that in a second. And also we can work out with the updates. But the system diagnostics tool is let me go down and see if I've got any items here. What this is this is allowing you to have Lifecycle Services look at your system and work out whether there are any problems. Now, this environment I just connected up earlier on, But to give you a little bit of background, what you do is you go onto your system, whether it's hosted internally or hosted on Azure or through a hosting partner, and then you tell it that I want to create a connection from that system to Lifecycle Services. Then what happens is the system is going to then run and start tracking all the information there. Now, I think I've got another environment here where I have a little bit more information. Let me just back out of here. And, whoops. Let me back up once more. I think that is actually this one here, where we've had this connected up for a reasonable amount of time. And if I look at the system diagnostics, then it's showing me that we had 40 jobs that errored out, and then we've got one warning message. We don't really have anything that's critical, and everything's sort of running fine. And then here are all of the different issues that may cause a problem. And then I can look at all the messages, and I could see everything that's there, and based on some of these rules, then I may want to ignore them, or they may be important, so I can actually add them on or off or tweak them within the system. I can look at all the different environments that I've got, and I think I've only got one here, which is running. And then also there's something else that you can do. I don't think I've got any collectors running, but what this allows us to do is it allows us to monitor different functions within the system, and it's going to give us different notifications within the system based on how the system's being used and also any errors that may be popping up. And then also we can go out and we can generate a report on any of the machines that we've got running. So I could have multiple AOSs running, I could have multiple environments, and it's going to sort of really give me a state of the health of the system here within Lifecycle Services. So from a sort of management standpoint, this is a really great tool to take advantage of. Now let me just return back to here. Now the next area where we can, from an IT standpoint, we can get a lot of bang for the buck is this issue search. Now, if, for example, you have a question, and I think this came up last week that someone was asking about committed costs and that they were having a problem with the committed costs not running, or there's something squirrely going on with the system. So what I showed is that you can actually go in and look at, type in any keyword, so any key area of the system, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to see all of the different issues that have been reported on that area. Now this may look like a lot, but this is everything to do with committed costs since really the inception of the support system. But if we look, there's actually only 4 open items that are out there. So if I could look at the open items if I want to, or I could further refine these down to just R3 or R2 or 2009. There's actually one here that's been reported for 2009. And with any of these, I can drill into them. I can see what the issue was, that it was actually fixed with a hot fix. It was fixed a while ago. And then I can look at any changes that were made. So it's going to give me a summary of all the different methods within the system. And also if I want to download the hotfix, because it's actually only one object that's affected, then I can download this directly from Lifecycle Services. So this really gives you a much better way that you can go out and do an issue search, and you could go out and sort of look for some of the information yourself rather than having to call up support. Now, the other side of this is the cloud-powered support. So let me go down to here. The cloud-powered support allows you to go out and create your own incidents and also track the incidents within the system. So if, for example, I wanted to report an issue, then I could go out and I can just report it here, or again search for an existing issue. Now, this is important because this is a great way for customers and partners to work together so that you can go out and maintain support incidents and have a central place that everyone has access to all of these different components. Now, this has one extra level that if, for example, you need to recreate the issue or you need to set up some information, then you can have support fire up a virtual machine for you, which is actually a copy of the cloud, the demo system that we were talking about earlier on. And you can recreate the issue in there. They will go and take that virtual machine, look at how you recreated the issue, create the task recording from it, and then fix it or try to fix it. Then they return back, gives you back access to the virtual machine, and you look at it and you test it out. And if it does fix the issue, then what's going to happen is then they're going to create a fix just from that virtual machine, and then add that to the support ticket for everyone else to access, and then also give it to you so that then you can apply it to your system. So, and then they'll actually just throw away that virtual machine because it's just a virtual machine for testing purposes. So there's a lot more you can do here, but also this gives you a direct connection back to support. Now, and we talked about this earlier on, where you can actually go out and access all of the different updates directly here from Lifecycle Services. So what I can do is either through the issue search, or I can go out and use the updates that we have up here. We can get any additional updates to our system directly here through Lifecycle Services. Again, we don't have to go out and track things down through the support side. This is our support side, and this is a central place that we can have access to it. So what I've done here is I've gone out and shown you a number of different things, and this is where I should stop, but I'm actually going to just highlight one or two additional things about Lifecycle Services before we go into question and answer. So if there's some additional components here within Lifecycle Services which are really useful. And if I return back to my Lifecycle Services main page, then there's actually a downloadable area here. So when you first log in, you're not even inside of the project. Then you can access a whole slew of different sort of pieces of code. And some of these are the data import-export framework. If, for example, you're using the pre-CU7 image. You can also download the Security Upgrade Advisor tool, also the Security Development tool. This is a really useful tool that allows you to go out and see what the privileges are by user and by form and by profile, and it sort of makes things a little bit easier within the system. And there's some other sort of downloads that are available to you here just through the system. Now, also, let me go back into here. Also, what we can do is we can manage our incidents. We also have these solution libraries. I don't actually have, I've got some here. And these libraries are public libraries, or libraries that are promoted from either Microsoft or from a partner, that allow you to go out and it allows you to go out and gather a whole lot of different sort of code and solutions and data, and then pull them directly here into the system. Now, something that is, I talked earlier on and said that this is also available for AX7. If, for example, you're going out and testing out AX7, then you will go out and create a project which is AX7 based, it will have some of the same tools here, but it will have some different options. For example, if you want to estimate what your subscription should be for AX7, then you can go out and you can actually create estimates, and it will go out and tell you what your licensing requirements are for AX7 using Azure. Also, what we can do is, if I scroll over just a little bit, then there are these things called asset libraries. Now, asset libraries are predefined packages that you can go out and take advantage of. For example, with AX7, what we have is we have these data packages. And what these are standard ways that I can go out and I can import data. So Microsoft have gone out and they've created all of these for you on, let's find a good one down here, on importing in leads. And they've packaged everything up for us so that then we just go out and pick up this one file and going to download in a second, and then it has all the information that we need in order to pull in all of the leads within the system. Also, it has business process models or baseline business process models that are here, and also different standard data setups here. If you're a customer and you're working with a partner, then partners will have a number of these packages which are specific to them, that are sort of their secret sauce, that help them and your industry in order to go out to implement the system more effectively. So and then the final item that I'll talk about is, up until now I've sort of shown you how you use Lifecycle Services or some of the different components. And right at the beginning I talked about this and said Lifecycle Services is a tool for the implementation. Really it's a tool for the customer to control the project, and then you can invite whoever you want to these projects so that you can go out and really control the project and have a complete view of the system. As an administrator, then you can go out, and as a customer, then you can go out and have as many users as you want here within Lifecycle Services that have access to all this information. Also, you can have different types of users that have different privileges within the system. If, for example, I wanted to invite anyone, then I could just look up the user, see if I can find one. So I could add Deborah Vermillion to this, and I could say that she is a project team member. And I could just add this, it's going to invite her. If I have a partner that I want to add, then all I need to do is to have a live account here. And all I need to do, again, is just invite myself here. And then that's going to send a meeting a request for that user, and then they can accept it. Then they'd have full access, they'd have whatever access you want here in this role or in this view. So even though we've gone through and we've sort of talked about the different tools, there's also administration here where you invite and you remove people from the project so that you still have control over what you want to manage within this. So let me stop because we're getting close to the top of the hour. And what I've tried to do here is give you an idea of Lifecycle Services. It's this tool that everybody has access to, and it's free. It's also this conduit that allows you to have a direct connection back to Microsoft, and also a way that you can use tools like the cloud-powered support to go out and create different environments really quickly without jumping through a lot of hoops and without knowing a lot about the system either. And this is also a tool that customers should own, partners can take advantage of, and they can manage and they can work with the customers. And it will give you, if you use this from the beginning of the project or even halfway through a project, then it will also give you all of this control and all this documentation around your project so that, again, you can get controlled and repeatable implementations, and also sort of help you with your upgrade process and all of the different customizations that you may want to do. So I'm going to take a breath and see if there are any questions, and I'm seeing some coming through on the Q&A, but if anyone else has any other questions, then please just put them through in the Q&A and I'll try to address them. And the first question was from Mohan, and it's talking about can you run all of these on a local environment, and just does it run on a hosted environment? And the thing is, this runs on, let me pull this up, this will run on both the hosted and internal systems. And what I'll do to sort of illustrate this is I'm connecting through into my environment. And really the secret piece of this is there's a connector which gets installed on the server, and then there's a handshake. Well, I'll leave this to run for just a second. There's a handshake that gets done between Lifecycle Services and the server, which then creates a secured connection between the two. So it doesn't matter whether it's internally hosted behind a firewall within your own organization, or whether it's on Azure, or whether it's at a hosted provider. Then all of these, the upgrade analysis, the system analysis, all of these tools can connect back to all of those different environments. Now, again, if there are any other questions, then just pop them through on the Q&A, and we can answer them. And if there aren't any, then we can probably just hand this back to Jason and close off the presentation.
All right, thanks, Murray. So I do see one other question about Microsoft Project. I know you touched on that earlier, but do you want me to read off that?
Let me go. Yeah, I can read that out. This is from Arturo, and the question was let me go into my item here, and I think that came up earlier on, and was asking for all of the work items that pop up, whether they and I don't have any here. So the gaps in the work items, whether they go over to project. Now they don't go over to project, but they do go to Visual Studio Online. Visual Studio Online allows us to, when we look at the project, and there's two items that we can set up. First, we can set up the link to Visual Studio Team Services or Visual Studio Online, and that really becomes the area where we track the gaps and track the development, and then just use Lifecycle Services more as a shadow. Also, I think you can use Git for some of the project development, and also there's a link from Lifecycle Services that will allow you to connect over to SharePoint, and SharePoint can be the repository. But to answer your first question, there really isn't a link to Microsoft Project yet, but I'm hopeful that maybe one day that'll be added into the system.
All right. Well, I do see one other question. Are you able to upload Visio business process flows into the model?
Yeah, and the answer to that, and I can quickly show that too. The quick answer to that is yes, you can. Because a lot of the times you have business processes that you've already defined, and you've got them in Visio diagrams. So what I can do is I can either recreate the Visio diagram here by using the flowchart modeler, or what I can do is I can actually go to the Visio tab here for the business process model, click the upload, and upload that one Visio diagram. And what that's going to allow you to do is then use this again as the repository for all of the business processes. Now, what is best is that you should upload the Visio diagrams if you've got them, and then go out and run a task recording based on that Visio diagram, because then it will create the steps, and then also it does a lot more where you can go out and you can create task recordings and task guides and more detailed documentation as well. So the quick answer is yes, but there's more that you can do even above and beyond what I'm showing.
Okay, well, it looks like we're at the end of our question queue. I do want to remind folks there's a quick survey that pops up after we end today's session. We would really appreciate your feedback. It just takes a couple seconds to tell us what you thought of the event. And with that, I think we can start wrapping up. Murray, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today and to show off so many of the features of LCS.
Oh, not a problem. I really think that this is an important tool that everybody should be using and taking advantage of.
And thanks to everyone in the audience for your attention today and your questions. And we hope to see you again online soon. So that concludes today's event. Have a great day, everyone.